Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. This is a 3 times weekly show looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. Available on video and podcast. My name is Benjamin Bloom and we'll be here each and every Monday for this, the flagship show for a sometimes irreverent but always informative hour or more of football conversation. So make your Monday a Blue Monday. Richard, it's sunny. It's like 4:30. This feels very, very strange. How are you, Richard?
I'm all right, and I've closed it all out. So you guys have got the sunshine behind you. I thought it'll get dark while we record, so I've shut the blinds, closed the windows, turned the lights on. So I'm the most miserable person that you could possibly find in the Midlands right now because I'm indoors, cooped up. But good to see you both, nonetheless.
The most miserable person
right
in
here.
the Midlands. I was going to make a generalisation about people in the
They're
Midlands.
all,
I think it's just the accent,
the most miserable,
the length of the consonants that makes you sound miserable. I had a whole thing from the I normally do from the wildly popular Blue Monday preview show.
You can do that again. That's fine. We can still talk about how great the Thursday show is.
I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going, Wally Downs or Flynn Downs with Amy. I literally decide like a second before I do the predictable joke. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Wally Downs' niece, Amy, up north. Our northern correspondent. It's been a northern away day. How are you, Amy?
I'm good, thank you. One of my friends pointed out we're going to have a bit of a dilemma at the end of next season because I'm getting married in July 2020.
Oh, you changed your name?
Yeah, well...
What's your married name going to be?
It would be Fieldhouse, and I've been having a bit of a feminist debate with myself over whether I want to take a man's name.
Why don't you do the hyphen thing?
Yeah, double-barreled.
I could do. My son's double-barreled.
Why don't you become Amy Maitland Niles Downs Fieldhouse?
If Friends is anything to go by, you can change it to whatever you want.
Exactly. If I'm choosing names, it'll be Holland, and then Matt can never get away from me. So
Fieldhouse is quite good, though. I quite like that.
Oh, but then you couldn't use your joke.
No,
it would no longer be.
No, but
I'm glad that's part of your decision with with your name for the rest of your life. But please let us know at Tractor Girl Amy what she should do with her name when she's married at the end of next season. I feel this is a pressing matter. Richard, you were there. So Corey Ndaba, 19-year-old centre half, signs a new pro contract, his first pro contract with Ipswich until 2020. So left-footed centre half, as Paul Lambert said in the conference. You saw him in the under-23s. What do you think? Is he going out on loan next season, or is he going to be anywhere near the first team?
I don't want to say it's a coincidence that I called him out as one of the 3 players that I liked on Monday, but a few days later he got the contract. So obviously the endorsement that I gave him has helped. I thought physical. He was captain on the day as well, so a good leader, but good in the air. I think both of our centre-backs on the day was Barry Cotter was the other centre-back. Where is he now? Barry Cotter was playing centre-back. Both of them were quite good, actually. But, yeah, Ndaba definitely had a bit of presence about him. And, as you say, left-footed centre-back is something we lack. So, fingers crossed, him and Wolfenden maybe. Who knows?
Interesting. Amy, Paul Lambert served the first game of a 2-match touchline ban he received last week. Also fined £3,000 for his role in the Carrow Road touchline Royal Rumble. He says 2 matches probably too much and 1 would have been okay, but there's no point in appealing, so he's just going to do it. Does the punishment fit the crime? We'll come on to did we miss him yesterday. I'm sure that'll be asked in the questions. Does the punishment fit the crime?
I'm not clued up on what other people have been given as a punishment in the same place, but I think that what should have been taken into consideration was the build up to the game and how hyped it was, and that was the biggest game in the season for us. But to be honest with you, I've seen people who are quite angry with him because of him now not being there for the 2 most important games points wise for our season, but I just think it kind of followed on from the narrative from the week of Lambert's so passionate about this side and he doesn't care about Norwich anymore and they hate that. And the only thing I would say is what I don't understand is, from what I've read, if I've got this right, the Norwich coach that got sent off, the ref sent the wrong one, and then because they'd sent the wrong one, the punishment, he's not been punished, but the one who actually did wind Lambert up hasn't been punished either. Am I right in thinking that?
I'm just quite impressed that you're not obsessed enough, like all the Norwich fans seem to be, to have actually be that bothered to have checked out. You know, I didn't even know that, but I was where he'd sent the wrong one off. But I think the fine was for the pushy shovey on the steward, wasn't it, rather than anything else.
Possibly.
You make a really good point because Matthias Klitsch poured water over Joe Williams yesterday at Leeds, and Phil Parkinson got sent off. So we'll see. He will no doubt get a two match touchline ban as well. But I think otherwise I'm with you on that. I think they're just starting to set a precedent now, Rich, with these red cards, and I think maybe the guys that get them this season are kind of the guinea pigs, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, they have to show that there's a consequence of having it. Otherwise, it's just an extra bit of boo or hissing that we get in the during the match. I was going to say, did you see the Thursday Lambert's pre-match press conference? I think he was asked by Look East whether he regretted it or whether he would do it again.
Is that Tom guy?
Possibly, and he was totally unapologetic. It's like, I'd absolutely do it again. If someone is trying to belittle the club or belittle me, I absolutely going to stand my ground. That's the kind of guy I am. And do you know what? I think good on you. Fair play.
Yeah.
So
Totally agree.
Richard, a Voice of the Fans survey was sent out to email addresses on the club's database this past week, surveying fans about next season, in particular, honing in on ticket prices. Just have you both seen it?
yeah.
No.
We'll go with Rich first then, but we'll come to you on the general season ticket stuff, Amy. What impact do you think that'll actually have, you know, once they get the findings? And any idea what they're going to do? Because I keep seeing lots of complicated conversations about ratings of wage bills and percentages and all sorts when you get relegated. But season tickets, realistically, prices, and are the sales going up or down?
I thought the survey was, I guess I applaud the intent behind the survey, which is to ask fans for their opinions. But it's a really limited survey in respect of the perspectives and answers you could give. And in terms of the prices, the only question they asked was about a fair price for match day tickets in the Championship or League One. So they didn't ask about season tickets. And I think that's the key one, really, because I'm one of these people that's on the fence. I kind of took a decision a while back, not living in Ipswich, to not have one. And I don't feel that the reason behind me not getting a season ticket is someone who could probably afford one if they wanted to, but hasn't got one. I don't think I was able to express that. So I don't think the survey particularly is going to be massively useful for DeMarcus Evans, because he feels like one of these people that makes his own mind up. But hey, I applaud them asking the questions at least.
Amy, do you see the things you wouldn't have seen on the survey? Weekend only season tickets, they were asking about those. Just generally, are we going to see a situation with maybe one part of the ground closed off? If you go to, I don't know, Bristol City or Cardiff, I remember last season, they'll start selling or even Villa, Rich, as well. They'll start selling the
Trinity. I think Sunderland have closed up the top tier in one of their stands as well.
Top tier last. What are you thinking season tickets, Amy, and how the ground might look next season?
I think if they start to close parts of the ground off, which surely would be sensible. I'm trying to think of times where they've done that in the past, like friendlies and things like that, where they've not had certain blocks
did it in the FA Cup. Was it last season or this season? I think
Sheffield United. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think they run the risk of annoying people, because I've seen stuff about people, season ticket holders, refusing to move in the cobbled stand for the Leeds fans on the final game of the season. My feeling is leave them sat there. If you really want to sit with the Leeds fans, you do it. But if we're gonna charge them 40 quid a ticket because they're all so desperate to come down there, let's get some money in before we go down. But to the point, I think that it would make sense to me if we do end up closing some of the stands. We probably shouldn't have a ground that's that big anyway, and we certainly shouldn't in League One. So we're going to have to start making sensible choices. But for me, what the survey did show, I completely agree with Rich, is like it's a sign that they're listening and they are opening themselves up to the club, to the fans, having built an impression they don't listen to us. For me, I think the better bet would be a listening group, so you've actually got people talking to people at the club, but then you've got to be able to take that on and do something with it, not the AGM with its pre-approved questions and all of that. rubbish, but
gonna
I was pleased to see it.
It's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm sure it's even worse for Premier League / Championship things. I can't imagine what other business you'd be in where you'd plan for two scenarios where the numbers are so massively different. And I guess we need to have some kind of patience with them because, in the unlikely, frankly, event we stay up, then they need to price it and structure it totally differently if we go down. And traditionally, season ticket prices need to be announced before you even know where you're going to be. So it could be.
But do they need to wait? Would it not be nice now to get people in on the early bird and say, Lambert's staying with us no matter what? Now it's your chance to commit. Drop the prices, freeze them for the year after. So if we come back up to the Championship, they're paying lower prices, and that would be a reason to commit to next year. I'm the same as Rich. The only reason I don't have a season ticket is because I don't live down there. If I did, I would find the 30 quid a month to pay for it. But I just think if it was me now, I'd commit for the next 2 years because I'd want to be there for the next step of the journey.
Rich?
Yeah. I mean, we are going to know pretty soon where we're going to be next season. That's
true.
Spoiler alert for later on.
19th, yeah.
But I would suspect by the time the early bird stuff usually comes out, which I think is mid-April, I think we'll know. I quite agree that we're kind of in this limbo point at the moment. And so I would suggest that waiting a bit, doing a bit more and listening. I think I totally agree with Amy that the club is trying to do more of this kind of stuff and they're putting a lot of stuff out there. I think probably there's some tough lessons that need to be heard as well. And that opportunity I don't think has been had necessarily. You get people writing in. There was a lot of season ticket holders who sent letters saying, I've been watching for 40, 50 years. I'm not coming back and this is why. And I think under the previous chief exec, maybe they were listened to but not heard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, exactly what
I think this is possibly an opportunity to do that now to foster even more kind of goodwill going into planning for next season, which is going to be tough. Let's not be around the bush, and then potentially, getting more people in the ground, I think, is paramount, and the pricing is key for that. So I just hope they're listening.
Absolutely. Should we go on to Wigan then, ladies and gentlemen? I've never been to Wigan before. For not only the football ground. I've never been to Wigan. And Richard and I, Richard had the dubious earache of driving up with me yesterday, and we got in and had the most snotty middle class conversation. I went, Richard, I need some food, and I'll find a restaurant. He goes, Frankie and Benny's. No, I'm not eating at Frankie and Benny's. Is there a Zizzy or an Ask or a Wagamama? No. Half an hour later, right, let's go to Frankie and Benny's next to the ground, and it was all right. And then Harry from Bath appeared, so a few Blue Monday people there, but a couple of people that weren't there were Luke Chambers Luke Chambers was there. I mean, James Collins still not around, and Cole Skew's still not in the starting lineup. So here was the team, and the lesser spotted 3-5-2 out of nowhere, seemingly. So it looked something like, let me turn the page, Białkowski in goal, Pennington, Chambers and Knudsen were the three centre-backs. Bree was the right wing back. Kenlock was the left wing back. A lot of people say, Kenlock's better at wing back. Knudsen's better in a three centre back configuration. Chalobah and Nolan in the kind of not necessarily defensive centre midfielders, but the sitting midfielders. Judge wherever the hell he wants, basically. And Keane and Quainer up front. Amy, 3-5-2, go.
Pleased. I was really pleased. For me, it's 5-3-2. I cannot understand describing it 3-5-2 when you've got
I think it's just
and
how many people are in the first line is my rationale on it. That there's three people in the first line.
Well, then it would be 3-2.
3-2-2-1-2 in that system. There you go. Where do you stop?
I was very happy. I think that it really secured up the defence, and exactly as you say, that's how Knudsen plays best. And without wanting to skip ahead, how much of a difference did Luke Chambers make yesterday in the middle of that defence, bossing everybody about? I loved it. They were my biggest qualm last week was them not talking to each other. They were yesterday, and it was mainly him. So I was happy with that. I thought the three in the middle, actually, it wasn't just Judge that was moving wherever he wanted. It was all three of them. Chalobah was able to drop back if needed, but because of the five at the back, he had more freedom to get forward, I felt. And Nolan, who I'm not normally a fan of, again, he was able to push forward, and I liked it. And having two up front, what a revelation.
Dave Diamond wanted two up front, didn't he, Richard? 3-5-2. What would you make of that?
What I liked was how the kind of the pitch is split in half, and how one of the centre backs and one of the central midfielders, along with the wing back, pushes forwards, and the rest of the unit kind of stays behind. So when the ball moves either side of the pitch,
Mark Venus,
I think the balance
Jamie Clapham. Oh.
There's a unit there, and Harry talks about covalent bonds, and I thought there was a really nice kind of link up between Bree, Pennington and Nolan that established itself in the first half particularly. And I think that's what that system affords you, is a bit of protection, because there's now two covering defenders if one of them pushes forward rather than another one. And as you say, if you're a Kenlock or if you're a Bree and you want to bomb forward, then those three centre-backs can sit a little bit more. So I think it protected everyone. I think it, as you'll probably come on to, Ben, I think it actually worked. We really clicked into it after about 15 minutes. And I think maybe that's the way forward. I think the Diamond got sussed by Stoke. They went very wide, and that kind of combats it by us having our wing backs pushed out as well. So and supportive.
This team, as we're about to go on to, had an extremely threatening guy playing at right back as well. So maybe he would have had even more fun than he had yesterday if we'd done a Diamond. That might have even been to stop Reece James, mightn't it? Wigan lined up Jones in goal, the aforementioned and about to be mentioned many times, James right back, Dunkley, Fox, Naismith, the rest of the back four, Evans and Morsey sitting, Pilkington, Windass, Jacobs off the front, and the interesting Leon Clark up front, who didn't have the best game yesterday, bless him. Let's not go too granular, as Mr. Harry from Bath would say, but I think you've got it right, Richard. It took 5 or 6 minutes for it to bed in, but once you get up to the 10-15 minute mark, I think Ipswich are playing really, really well, and particularly that little triangle of Bree with Pennington helping him out behind, then across comes Judge, and they all seem to, a few openings down the right hand side. Amy, generally, how long do you think it took them to get into it? And am I being too biased? I thought they were by far the better side coming up to sort of 20 minutes or so.
I completely agree. I think we got to about our fourth shot on goal, and I looked at the clock and it was 20 minutes. I thought, what? Normally it takes a whole game for me to see 4 shots on goal. So the confidence was there, the urgency was there, and we looked like we were the mid-table side and they were the ones looking over their shoulders at relegation. We didn't look like we were the ones in the relegation fight with them. I didn't think in that first half, and I actually think that carried on ish into the second half, although they did step up. But yeah, I was really pleased with them. Couldn't believe it at half time, going, how well the first half was.
Talk about those chances, Richard, because there's a couple of half chances. There's one where Keane can't sort his feet out, but then there's one, and I've seen it back, it's a really good move actually, where Keane gets played in and spins left-footed. Rich, the big chance was Pennington flicks the corner on Keane on the back post, and he just misjudged it, didn't he? Billy Sharp would have probably backheeled it in or shouldered it in or something like that. But unlucky not to be ahead when we get up to minute 24, Rich, would you agree?
Yeah, agreed. I thought, we haven't mentioned him yet, I thought Will Keane was great yesterday. Yeah. Good in the air, unlike his partner. But both of them were putting in really good runs and also finding wide positions as well, which is a theme for the goal that we'll talk about in a bit, that particularly Quiner and both of them actually were taking wide positions. But yeah, there was just a few moments, and this has been the summing up of the season, is when the ball does drop, we want an extra second maybe than we're allowed. I thought Nolan yesterday in particular wanted a bit more time to pick out his pass, and when he didn't get that, it's kind of percentage passing into a bit of space rather than to an orange shirt. But Keane, it just dropped, and yeah, maybe a more clinical striker like a Sharp would have just snapped that up and put it in the back of the net, but unfortunately not to be.
And because this is the 18-19 season and it's going really, really well, and we think we've happened on a system in this game, of course, on 24 minutes, we're going to get a red card and make it incredibly hard for ourselves. Obviously, a red card, always a big thing, always much debated. So, Rich, this will be interesting. Were you behind the goal, Amy? Because we were on halfway.
I was marginally over to the right.
Okay, but you would have had a very different view of that than
yeah, absolutely, definitely.
We did. And can I just preempt? We got back to the car, Rich. I think it was James tweeted me, looking forward to Ben rambling on about law number 12 and the wording tomorrow. So James, you'll be very pleased that the laws are in front of me here. In fact, I'm going to read them now, Richard, before we get the two different views. So, red card offence for denying a goal or an obvious goal scoring opportunity, where a player denies the opposing team a goal or an obvious goal scoring opportunity by deliberate handball. The player is sent off wherever the offence occurs, or by a deliberate handball. So, the following must be considered: distance between offence and goal, general direction of play, likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, location and number of defenders. So that is the rules. Notice I didn't use the words last man at any point in that. They're not in the rules, everybody. There you go, James. Are you happy with that one? Right, Richard, what on earth happened? And let's play the blame game.
So the first thing that I want to mention is an amazing through ball by Morsey. I think it's Morsey, isn't it? On a sixpence to Leon Clark, who's on the run. I think in your review, Ben, you were on the fence about whether that was a hoof up the field or not. I thought that was a brilliant pass from Morsey. Clark brings the ball under control. So I think that's something in your rules there. So the ball is under control.
Look, rules of the game, not mine.
Well, you're here as the representative of the rules, and let's do that.
I don't want to be that guy. That makes me Lee Probert.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe you'll send me off then for this analysis. Then we are. I thought it's Clark, Knudsen, and Chambers. Chambers is to one side for me.
Clark not Rio Ferdinand, yeah.
He's not Rio Ferdinand.
Okay.
He's Luke Chambers.
Right, okay.
I think Clark traps the ball really well. I think he's got it under control. I think when Knudsen interferes with him, it's just outside the penalty area. It's like I'm a lawyer now, isn't it? I'm being really careful to not be sued by anyone. He grabs the shoulder back. I think Chambers possibly
not Van Dijk.
No, he's not Van Dijk.
Okay, right.
He's not Roberto Carlos. I think I don't think Chambers is going to stop the shot. I think Chambers is in close proximity, but not close enough. If Clark gets past Knudsen, shrugs him off, he hits that, I think. Yeah. And that's why I think it's a sending off, as well as the fact it's really dumb by Knudsen just to grab him by the shoulder and pull him back. That's my take.
Just quickly, percentage chances given Leon Clark's game yesterday of him scoring.
I've written it down, and Dave asked me how the game was yesterday. I sent him a message saying I would, in hindsight, knowing how Clark would play out the rest of the match, have the shot, mate. Chambers probably goes, do you know what? Just go, have a go.
So
Bart probably goes.
In summary, though, Richard, Probert was right for you?
Yes. Yeah, I think probably I was just in shock how early it was in the game and thinking, well, it's 25 minutes. He's not going to pull out a red card, is he? And then it's Lee Probert, so he's got to make a mark on the game, hasn't he? The Wigan fans around us, ironically, weren't his biggest fans either, were they? No. There was a guy in front of us who went, we're not here for you, Probert, about 20 times. Yeah, I don't think there's any argument.
Amy, I always remember John McGreal getting sent off, Guy Whittingham doing what Clark did yesterday, and I was sat behind the goal and was so infuriated because you get the view that the ref doesn't see, where the guy waits for the contact and throws himself down, and it kind of looks a bit more exaggerated. Was there any sense or argument from him with the Ipswich fans yesterday? What was your view on it?
As far as I could hear, myself included, everybody around me was like, what on earth? That can't have been a red card. And I honestly think it's just because we were slightly over to the right, so we were seeing it at a different angle. I didn't see the tug on the shoulder. I saw two players coming in at quite a bit of speed, who tangled. And as my dad always used to say, when we were at games together, he would say it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And it looked to me like Clark went down heavily and unnecessarily so. And it looked to me like it was a harsh red. I think we all said, oh yeah, you've seen him given, but the immediate reaction was, my God, we have no luck at all. And it was just, yes, on reflection, having got home and seen the highlights and rewatched that, I think it was a silly mistake from Knudsen. But in my mind, he's thinking, if I let this go, we're going 1-0 down. So I think that's why he maybe was slightly more harsh than he needed to be. But at the time, yeah, the referee had a rough game from us after that point because everybody just thought he was after us. So I can see why people didn't think it was. But now I've been home and seen it from the view that you would have seen. Yeah, I get why it was.
Interesting. And the two things I said, Rich, that I always say in these things: one, trust your goalkeeper, let him make the save, and two, it's so early in the game, isn't it? Fair enough, if you're defending a 1-0 lead, there's 6 minutes to go, and take one for the team, especially with where we are. But it just seemed a bit of a silly. I know sometimes players are running close together, and you can get away with a little tug if your bodies are really close, which is cheating, but all footballers kind of do that. But yeah, I think Knudsen messed up a bit there yesterday. I'm being a bit flippant with this because a lot of people said, oh, Chambers was covering with my, Kevin Beattie, Rio Ferdinand, Virgil van Dijk comments. But it's clear I just think if you're the ref yesterday, Probert, how can you not send him off? It's like distance between the offence and the goal. Well, tick. He's right on the edge of the box. General direction of the play, tick. He's running straight at the goal. Likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, he's got it under control, hasn't he? He's going in on goal. Location, number of defenders. Lots of people say, oh, Chambers is covering. No, he's not. I'm sorry. You're telling me he's going to run 8 yards before Clark has his next touch. Covering doesn't mean alongside. Covering means, can he stop the shot, which is the obvious goal scoring opportunity. And yeah, the long-winded ramble. I think it was a red card, and I think Knudsen was a bit of a silly boy. But other opinions are available, and do tweet them and comment us. But please quote the rules. Don't give me your own. Don't give me your own version of the rules. This is what the ref is going on. I know football fans, they kind of have their own. He's not that type of player. So the ref will not be taking that into account. Anyway. Ridiculously, Ipswich kind of reconfigure. They go to a back four, and we don't really have a lot of time to figure it out before the next nice bit of action happens. But it's like a flat three in midfield, and when we're out of possession, one forward goes one side, one goes the other. So the formation is effectively 4-5, with no forward in defence. If you get my drift. Have I added that up right? Yeah.
I'm just doing the math in my,
yeah. It sounds weird, doesn't it, without three? But unbelievably, Amy, the next bit of action, Nolan clips it over, and I don't know what the hell Dunkley is thinking here, especially given this is a Premier League ref who's just given a big decision up the other end. Your view of the penalty, Amy?
So in complete contrast, I thought that was a dead on. He's taking him out in the penalty area. Craner's out clear. It's got to be a penalty. And now, having watched the replay, I feel like it might have been a little bit soft. And there is a huge part of me at the time, having not agreed with the red card at the time, that felt like the ref was maybe balancing out a bit. It was could have given it, could have not. So he's sort of gone a bit soft on the penalty almost to balance things out and be fair. But it was at a point where we had the vast majority of the run of the game, and I kind of felt like, yeah, we needed it, didn't we? We needed it, and it was a nice move actually. They completely stopped dead. A really nice move, and we were, if I remember right, I think we were battering their goal at this point. Like we had a few chances, so it felt like they were being a bit desperate. Silly mistake from theirs, just as it was from Knudsen, from their player, but. I don't know. I would need your rule book to decide whether that actually was a penalty or not. But for me, it was a soft one. But at the time, yes, definitely. Let's not question the referee when they're giving us a goal on a silver plate.
Richard?
Stonewaller, Amy. Stonewaller.
Why has he got his hands up there? Come on.
Yeah, so I think if you were in the North Stand last week, weren't you, for Stoke? Do you remember when Quainer went down and he clearly dived, but he went down kind of looking for it and stayed down injured, and then got the physio on, and then he stood up straight away.
Yeah.
Quainer's good at this, I think. I think he's got it as an art form. But Dunkley has a swipe at him. He kicks the way the back of his feet, I think, and then pulls it back as Quainer stops to check back inside. I think it's a clear pen. I think Nolan's a nice ball. Good run from Quainer as well in the build-up, as you say. We're looking right at it where we were sat, and to me, it was a clear pen. It was more the draw. It was more the fact it was so quick, and it's so dumb as well. I think that's what,
especially after really a ref like that, Rich, has just given a decision. If I'm Paul Cook, I'm like, right, guys, no contact for the next 10 minutes, because he will even this up in a second. It'll either be the next, the next foul's a yellow card, the next thing in the box is a penalty, the next debatable thing is a red card. And what I'll say about Quainer though is, I think Quainer's split people so far, but I get this sense with him, he looks a bit disinterested sometimes, but when he smells blood, Quainer, when he sees a space or a gap, he's like a different player, isn't he? He's like, right, I'm in, I'm gone, I'm going to use my Vin Diesel nitrous oxide boost for for this little sprint.
That's a reference for the kids there.
There you go.
I think when he starts running like a chicken, that's where I think he does that.
Oh, he gets
have a look
on
out
his
for
bike,
that,
doesn't he?
Sorry for people listening, they've not seen that gesture. Sorry.
One other thing I was going to say is, and Harry says this a lot on the preview show, he says this is such a streetwise league, and sometimes I feel all the other teams are more savvy and more streetwise than Ipswich are. I think yesterday there were more examples of Ipswich shithousery than we've seen in, some time wasting and some
it's epic.
falling on the floor in the second half that we've seen other teams do against us so many times. And I was kind of like, look, we were moaning weeks ago in the Villa game that Villa played the ref. They played Keith Stroud and, got the penalty to get out front in that game. And I think Quainer played the ref quite well in that position. Any doubts when Keane stepped up, Amy, with the right foot?
Oh, I always do. I hate it when we have penalties. One of my closest friends was watching from a bit further behind than me, and he said he faced the back because he just can't handle watching the penalties when we take them. I was okay, especially with Keane having played so well. He seems a lot more sure of himself at the moment. And then he flipping hits the post, and I honestly thought it was going out.
Pen,
I was
though,
like,
Amy. Perfect pen.
Oh,
Played for that.
Horrible.
And the keeper got really close to it as well. Yeah.
I honestly thought he'd missed it, and I was just like, this is our season and I hate it, but it went in and it was nice to be able to celebrate a goal again.
The only time I didn't feel that is Waghorn against Middlesbrough, because I'm like, right, this guy hasn't had a penalty the entire, he's just going to smash this with that left foot of his, and yes, he scored. So there we go, Rich. Into half time, amazingly 1-0 up. We started to back off a little bit, but only maybe for the last 5-6 minutes of that half. But we knew he was going to have to do something, and you and I discussed it, Rich. I'm like, I think he's going to have to pull a forward off. You cannot, that shape of that midfield was just not gonna hold out. So the decision was, Quainer comes out, Keane's the one guy up front more centrally, and Gwion Edwards is going to come in and play down the right-hand side. That was all he could do, really, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah, there are not many other options, are there? And I guess the fear is that Edwards isn't that kind of put a shift in, run around, track back type midfielder. But yeah, you're right. It certainly sorted out the balance a little bit more. But, we're going to be dominated for the next 45 minutes, aren't we? So at least Gwion Edwards gives you an out ball to potentially launch it down the right hand side, and there was a few sites that he had, even one right at the death, which he might have done better on. So it gives you a bit of both, but you know that he's not going to be able to cover too much for Bree.
So you've mentioned that pattern. Oh, they're going to dominate. That didn't actually transpire immediately at the start of the half, did it? And I can't believe Naismith didn't get a yellow card for taking out Edwards. There was that dangerous free kick. Judge with a curler, but Amy, God, that one chance. Judge into the corner of the box, smashes it at the top corner, and what's the Wigan keeper? Jones tips it over. I actually thought, I don't know if we used all our energy doing this, I thought we played the first 11, 12 minutes of that second half quite well, Amy.
Yeah, completely agree. Absolutely agree. Just came out all guns firing still. I wasn't keen on the sub change. I would have kept going as we were first half, but I understand why it was done. We still felt in control, I think. And I don't actually think it wasn't until I listened to your match review that I realised the moment when Wigan changed is when Powell came on. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a minute. For me, it wasn't half time. It was a little bit into it. So yeah, I think we had the confidence. We had the win in our sights, and that's what we were going for. And how long is it since we've been trying to go for a win? It was nice to see.
Yeah, you make a really good point. So we'll jump onto that. So Richard, without any sense of bitterness or bias, Wigan weren't very good, were they? And
no, they were angry around us, weren't they?
Their big outlet is this brilliant right back they've got on loan, and these were literally seasoned, experienced players. Where's Reece James? Where's Reece James? Oh, we can't get it to. Well, I tell you what, we'll go left and then we'll pass it to him. But like everything funneling to the blooming right back, who had loads of space. And I joked, didn't I, Rich? Let's check the stats afterwards. I bet he has 100 touches in this game, and he had 99 touches when we checked afterwards. But Amy's dead right, because what happens? Ipswich are going further and further back, and I'm not calling Paul Cook Pep Guardiola, because I think it was happenstance here. But Powell comes on and is obviously told, look, stand off and you're going to get a whole load of space. If because you said to me, what's Powell doing? Why is he not playing number 10? He goes a little bit further back, doesn't he? And he can pick up some position. McManaman comes on, but it very much felt like 4 up front. Let's just throw as many guys on as we can, and then what starts to happen is Powell, and particularly James is the outlet on the right, start to get more and more space. That was 62 minutes. And what transpires at the same time as well is Will Keane goes off. And as much as, Caden Jackson gives you a threat in behind, he doesn't have much with his back to goal as yet. He's not developed that part of his game too much at all, has he? Moving on, and then it really is one-way traffic, isn't it, to use the cliche? No real Ipswich breakouts, and just a litany of Leon Clark being... I swear, even if he was in the box and he tried to get out of the way of the ball, someone would then take the shot and it would hit him in the face and deflect round the goal or something. But, Rich, Wigan, without particularly playing well, just by numbers... It's
just crosses, isn't it?
Dominating, aren't they?
Just stuff in the box, and to be fair, we dealt with most of it. And the fortunate thing was when it did fall, it fell for Clark, who missed an absolute zero in the first half, which we didn't talk about. He's really close in. The ball goes, I think it's James, isn't it? He plays it. I called it down the corridor of uncertainty, # corridor of uncertainty, and he spoons it up in the air rather than just hammering it low. But there was one instance where the cross comes in from Naismith, who finally got one in from the left-hand side, having been shouted at by a guy in front of us for most of the match. And Clark contrives to head the ball off Windas's head, who's behind, ready to head it into an empty net. So it just wasn't his day. But it was just crosses, wasn't it? It was constant crosses. The ball was going across the pitch, as you were saying, trying to find something. And then eventually it comes back to James, and the quality of his right foot is just too good for us. But we held out, either by luck or just by purely poor finishing by on Clark.
I don't know if you two go through the same ritual as I do in these type of things. Being an Ipswich fan, my psychology goes, we got 10 men, we're going to lose anyway, we'll lose 2-1, and it gets up to 60 minutes, we'll lose, 70 minutes, we'll lose. And then for some reason at about 80 minutes, I go from we'll lose to we're going to win. Oh my God, I feel sick. We're going to win. So Downs comes in for Judge. Again, all these subs make sense, don't they? A bit more legs, and you're literally just clinging on to a 1-goal lead there. On comes Joe Garner for Josh Windass, and again it is just
Hashtag narrative.
4 guys up front, isn't it? They're coming, and then Rich, I'm looking over to see. Well, I always look, and because they tend to put the time up and then kind of switch it off and throw it back up again. So we already knew it was going to be 6 minutes, but away goes that pesky right back again, Rich. And what happens next?
So I don't think we spotted this because it's the opposite side of the pitch, but it's Downs up against James, isn't it? And
Well,
I think Amy Downs is up. Yeah, she's on the pitch.
Don't blame me for
playing
it.
left midfield, and this is where the goal comes from, Ben. So it's Amy's cousin is, and I think James doesn't do a huge amount of trickery to get past him. I think he just knocks it past him and outpaces him, sweeps it in. Clark is in there actually. Leon Clark gets across Chambers and actually I think puts Chambers off to the point. Chambers slides in because he thinks Clark is going to have the shot, and actually it passes by both of them. And Garner's totally unmarked and can't miss. And it's heartbreak because, as you say, I'd looked at 85 and thought, we're not going to do this, are we? That was my moment of it was 85, but utterly inevitable, isn't it? That's the trouble. That's our season because they'd done everything but score so far, and you kind of think, well, they're going to run out of steam, and unfortunately, not to be.
And I didn't notice he no-sold the celebration as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Good for him.
Not quite to a Darren Bent level of.
No, he would have run up to the away end and go, "Sorry, guys, I'm really sorry." Yeah.
Amy, emotionally, did you kind of feel the same way as it went on? Crap, we're actually going to win here, and then just because it's this season, it has to be a 90th minute goal by one of the guys that you sold that probably would have, helped you score a few more points had he not been sold.
I was exactly the same as you, I think. And the worst part about yesterday is they built up your hope by playing so well and clinging on for 60 minutes. And I was sat there, and as you know, I wasn't meant to be going yesterday. I'd said that last week at the live show, I was absolutely insistent. I'm not going to Wigan away. I've had a weekend away from my son and my fiance. I'm going to go home and I'm going to have a weekend with them next weekend. I'm not going to the football. I must put family first. And then I got home, and I think it was on Monday night, I was like, Luke, would you mind if I go to the football? And I was sat there at 85 minutes yesterday afternoon, and I was thinking, I might just text Luke in a minute and say thank you for letting me come. And he actually said he was watching it on the coming through, all the scores coming through, and he was so glad for me. He was so glad that I changed my mind and decided to go. And then, of course, even at 90 minutes, I thought, you've won it. And no. I think by the end, once it hit 90 minutes and we had flipping 6 minutes injury time, I don't know where it's like he just wanted to wind us up a bit more because all the Ipswich fans have been giving so much grief.
So that was Caden Jackson shithousing, wasn't it?
Danny Fox.
Caden Jackson was on the floor for like 20 minutes of that half, wasn't he?
To be quite honest with you, and I don't want to be too mean because I was too mean about Spence early on in the season, Caden Jackson may as well have sat on the floor for the whole of the time that he was on.
We haven't mentioned, because the one thing Caden Jackson does do, 95 minutes, 50 seconds, he wins a flick on, but Gwion Edwards is completely knackered, Rich, into the box. And was it Downs had got up on the back
Downs
post?
up Nolan, wasn't it? I think someone was up there.
And he didn't believe he could score, did he?
Yeah.
It's a cross-come shot, isn't it, in the end, when there needs to be a larrup into the straight at the keeper.
See where it spills. So even then. Rich, I mean, we had a few sort of silly replies back on YouTube and whatnot, but it was this weird situation of, yes, we get it, we're bottom and we need wins, and this is very irritating that we've lost, but, well, actually that's a good performance, at 24 minutes. And like you said, Amy, 96. So that's 72 minutes, not including the 2 at half time as well. Let's add these all on. 74 minutes with 10 men, when you've got no confidence and no points, you're away, you're bottom of the league, and you're frankly at a team with a good home record that have beaten better teams than us there this season. It's this weird combination, Rich, of being proud of a good performance that you gave up the points right at the end of. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get it, and my overwhelming emotion was one of pride because when we were playing football, it's better than it's been for some time. You know, that Reading 2-all away draw to me is kind of the peak that I've seen this season. And there was points where our passing was so incisive and the patterns that we were making, the Harry's covalent bonds, that was all working. The system was working. Keane was working hard. Quainer was working hard. Judge was everywhere. I agree with you that I quite like the fact that we're a bit more streetwise, that we were playing all the games we could to get, to waste time yesterday, because that's what you have to do when you're 10 men and 1-0 up away from home. I thought I was really happy with all of that. And it's just a quirk of timing that the goal happens then. If it had happened any earlier, there's a good chance we might have lost the game as well.
Totally agree.
I take the point. My own view is that relegation is practically a certainty anyway. So I'm looking for things to give me hope for next season and things that endorse that Lambert is doing the right things. And I think yesterday did that, albeit harsh that it's in the last minute.
Amy, summons up.
I think that for me, the subs won't have been what Lambert planned. Really interested to hear your thoughts on it as them being more tactical, because my impression at the time, my interpretation was that it was injuries, because Judge went down not long before he was then subbed.
Keane was definitely hurt, wasn't he?
Keane was an injury.
Yeah, Keane was obviously in. Have we heard any more about that yet?
No.
I have a very
possibly.
cod theory on this, that it's with it looked like hamstring, didn't it? He was holding there, so we're talking strain, tweak, tear, rupture, and he walked off. So you
that's
think,
true.
unless he's bionic man and he can walk off with a, so, but you don't know, and that's my very unscientific theory. But you're dead right that was brought on.
I think that was just. I think all the subs were, and I just think that we'd gone from being completely in control and sort of bossing the game to clinging on, and it was inevitable that a goal was going to go in. But totally agree with Rich that if it had happened 5-10 minutes earlier, we would have conceded another one, because it was just, we were weathering the storm for about 20 minutes and it was scary, but also made me very proud that we dug in deep and we kept going.
To your point, Amy, no Harrison on the bench. I think if Harrison's on the bench there, he comes on for Keane and is a bit more, then there's some physical presence up front when, because that was sort of 63 minutes, wasn't it? Look, can we just quickly do a couple of players? Lots of plaudits. I think we all agree that Bart is something back towards his old self, especially given the lack of kind of chipping the ball to the sides and setting up the goal kicks. He looks much less anxious now.
I thought his kicking was good yesterday, by the way. I think it's more controlled and a little bit more accurate, I thought.
There was that one where Chambers absolutely failed in the first half, where he booted it up.
That was the one. I was thinking it in my brain and he did it straight away, so that's my fault. But I thought that was time wasting. I thought Chambers was wasting time by having a chat with Bart and stopping the game. But I thought Bart was better. Yeah.
Kenlock, I so want to do well because he's one of ours, but he's had some difficult games, hasn't he, Kenlock? And again, we're defending for so much of this. It's just when he came in against Millwall, Kenlock, I thought he's really good. In the back four, and we played that really good first half. But I would hasten to say that maybe Max Aarons, that's the best right back in the division he's playing against, isn't he?
Yep. Oh, everything right, Amy?
Yep.
Oh, look at the light.
Losing the light. I've got one above my bed, so I don't have to get up to turn it off at night.
I think that 5-3-2 works for Kenlock as well, by the way. I suspect we'll probably do that against Reading, and it will be Kenlock there again. So maybe he'll play himself into some form. Who knows?
The Skews debate is advancing now, because this is the first time we've not seen him in the team for sort of 2 or 3 games. And what's the difference, Amy? Skews or no Skews yesterday? What was the difference yesterday?
Attacking. We were pushing forward. I actually quite like Trevor playing. Well, I just love Trevor, if I'm honest, but I like him pushing forward. I like the fact that he can do either. I think he's grown into supporting the back line and being able to defend, but he's also good fun. Like, it's quite exciting to watch going forward. I am a huge fan of Skoos. I think keeping him next year is vitally important. I think he's highly underrated by a lot of our fans who don't like the way he plays, but I think that he's vitally important to help our defence. But once our defence starts to feel a bit stronger, he's almost a little bit redundant, isn't he? He's, when Chambers and Collins are our tank in the middle, that that you feel a bit more sure about. Do we need Skoos in the middle when we so badly need support going forward to help the strikers? That's been the problem all season, is the strikers not having the chances, and they did yesterday and against Stoke. So I love Skoos. I'd like to see him. I think he's important to keep next year, but possibly becoming more for off the pitch than on the pitch.
I hadn't thought about it like that. If the future is with a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, if that's the future, then this business of, you get killed in midfield if you don't have an extra man. Well, your extra men become the wing backs, don't you? You end up there with 2 wing backs forward, 2 sitters, and then you judge or whatever, and you don't get outnumbered. And we're talking about players which 3-5-2 suits, maybe not Skoos so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with all of what Amy's just said, and to me, that's why the 5-3-2 is, or the 3-5-2 is not his formation. And I quite agree that he's got to roll off the field as well. I think both him and Chambers, to me, should be given player coach contracts straight away in the summer. For that reason, I think they're valuable experience, but sometimes the system is going to suit them. There might be a game where it's all going to be backs to the wall, and Skoos might come in and be really important. But I think at the moment we need to score goals, and unfortunately, Skoos isn't the player to do that.
And also yesterday, Skoos is at his very best when the game is a bit more flowing back and forth, and he can read things coming onto him. When it's just 2 ranks of defence, frankly, you just want a bit more mobility, and you want a bit more of a press forward. So maybe yesterday wasn't necessarily, I hate the term suited to him, but you're a football player, suit yourself to what's happening, for goodness sake. But you take my point. Anyway, I waffle on. It's good stuff, but we are going very, very long.
Aren't we?
Should we do some questions? Let's start with you, Rich. FPL Tractor, did you feel the change in formation was negative, a la Mick, positive or pragmatic based on players available?
I think it was a system that fitted the players available, and I think it worked. I'd be a fan of it and want to see it again next week, hopefully, but who knows?
I think us 3, given our ages, are going to struggle with this one. So we'll put this one out. Pakefield ITFC, worst penalty you've ever seen taken at Portman Road. Can anyone recall one worse than Mark Brennan's calamity against Derby, 86-87, when about 5 yards wide? I'm trying to think bad penalties. Portman Road. Mauricio Tarrico's in the shootout, bless him, against Chelsea. That was never going in. I can't. Alex?
No, I can't. I looked at that one earlier. I couldn't remember. Oh, yeah, I couldn't think. Stuart missed one. I remember that against Birmingham. That wasn't great, but I'll have to come. Maybe let's ask that on Thursday. I'll hold that one to the Thursday preview show. Me and Harry will do that one.
Twitter will tell us. Amy, will we ever see Freddie Sears in an ITFC shirt again? Matthew Noble.
I'd hope so. I think he's paid his dues and deserves what will hopefully be an exciting season next season. He could be the extra energy, the fresh legs that we get in when he comes back from injury. And
so when's that going to be? If it's 9 months from...
I saw someone
September
say Christmas.
Yeah, September, October, earliest.
Yeah.
Christmas,
he could be like a new January signing by the time he's match fit. We're coming
2015 all over again. Hey, Sears arriving in January. James Parker. Are we realistically ever going to return to the Premier League with Evans as our owner? Richard.
I mean, not in the foreseeable future, are we? No, but who knows what might happen over the next few years? You just don't. No, I don't know.
Amy, Mark Leathers, given Knudson's red card yesterday and mistake last week, do you think it was the right thing, I guess, to bring him back into the starting 11? Appreciate there were injuries to Chambers and Collins, and he has the experience, but we could have gone with Toto and Pennington. Is his mind really with us? Amy on Knudsen, here we go.
Yes, absolutely, it was the right thing to do. He's made Well, the debatable mistake last week, I'm not convinced that was his fault, and this week was a silly mistake that honestly probably could have been any of the back four, maybe not Chambers, but I think it was the right thing. I think he's proven himself for how well he's played in the last 4 games. I think he deserves to be there because even though admittedly he wasn't on the pitch for very long yesterday, he looked good. That position really suited him. He is the best left back that we have at the club, and he should be playing, in my opinion.
Okay, can I take this one, Rich? Chris Hodges says Pennington is our best loan signing this season. How does he compare to Cameron Carter-Vickers from last season? I think they're similar in ability, but have different skill set. Carter-Vickers was very, very strong, and once he was grounded, you weren't getting past him. I think Pennington's got this sort of, not saying he's as good, but this Terry Butcher charge around Lionheart type thing, hasn't he? The one thing I love about Pennington as well, even when Chambers is there, defensive set play, who's the one? We've all seen him do it, haven't we? He's in the middle of the box, organising everybody. We won't be able to get him, but he's the sort of player, God, if you could get him, I'm sure he'll end up at Derby in the summer, won't he? But there you go.
With Chalobah, yeah.
But yeah, not in terms of ability, and Carter-Vickers doesn't get in for Swansea, does he at all? So this is directly for Amy, so Rich, we'll go back to Amy. Neil Jenkins, Amy described on a previous pod how much of a low point she felt the Accrington game was. What's changed, stroke improved in the 2 months since to give us a little bit more hope, if anything?
What's changed? The players' belief in themselves. They've managed finally to string a few decent performances together, and possibly even partly down to the players that have come in. In fact, yes, definitely due to the players coming in. Keane has made a big difference. I forget his name. Bree on the right, I think, has helped support the back four, back five. I think that I have been saying all along, even under Mick McCarthy, that it was our confidence that was causing the problem, and now we have a bit of that back and a bit of passion. Actually, we didn't get around to Luke Chambers at the end. I don't know if that's in the question, so I don't want to preempt anybody, but he was absolutely devastated. And it was Alistair Rattray said to me on Twitter, we were talking about it yesterday after the game, and he was saying that it actually looked like he was crying and he was wiping away tears. And to see, it drives me mad when people say the players don't care. Of course they care. They cared when they were absolutely, I'm trying to think of a non-swear word, but when they were terrible at Accrington, they cared. Even though they were awful, they cared that they were awful. And now, they've managed, they're turning it around, and we are going down. There's no question about it, but we're going down with a fight, and you cannot ask for any more of the players.
Nick asks, I think we can agree pretty much. Everyone was saying yesterday was winnable, but aren't 6-pointers like that going to be harder than playing teams who are mid-table? I think, Nick, there's actually statistical evidence to say that you're totally right. That
you said this yesterday, didn't you, Ben?
As we get to this, I mean, look at blooming Swansea and Hull yesterday, 3-0 down and 5-1 they lost. Yes, and the weird thing with this season, I'll do the maths, the inability of the teams in the bottom 6 to even beat each other has been staggering. I'll do the maths. They've all been draws, literally. And I remember Mick Mills saying it, when the teams around you play, you only want 1 point going into the table, not 3. Sorry, 2 points going into, 1 for each team going into the table, not 3. And they just can't. These bottom 3, 4 teams.
Look at them.
Except for Millwall, who twice this season have managed to win 3 or 2 on the trot and then be terrible for another 6 weeks. But yes, Nick, you are right. We're going to move on, but Super Franz, sorry, asking about Real Ale. Mullet, I think you've covered that a little bit. Ben, Martin, Kevin. Oh, actually, can I take this? The only question I have is, will the Blue Monday carry on as we know it in League One, Kevin? Of course it will. So much planning done yesterday.
I was really hoping you answered that question. Well, I've got some bad news, everybody.
There's good news.
League One.
And there's bad news. Yeah.
I'm keeping my job.
Yes. There's loads of other questions. Sam. Mikey. No, we got in trouble for reading out too many of the.
There's only one though. Is it Mikey's second one, which is the trade one?
Oh yeah, I think I'd be a carpenter.
Yeah, I'd be a plumber.
Yeah.
Water's always the problem in a house. Water.
Plumbers make good money as well, don't they? But you have to put up with some bad smells when you're
That is true.
When
Plasterers as well.
He
What
asked
tradesman
about
would
the
you be, Amy?
checker
We need to
trade.
ask Amy.
Sorry, Amy.
I
Like
don't
his-
like getting my hands dirty, so I would be absolutely terrible.
Wear
I'm
gloves.
awful at anything
Yeah.
DIY or how I can't even do housework. I couldn't do a job.
Oh, I couldn't do
that
it.
is-
I'd be the worst plumber in England, but I'd like to be able to do it. Imagine building a wall. Sorry, like a carpenter. No, carpenters don't build walls. That's a builder. Carpenters
shelf.
do wood, don't they? A shelf.
It
I'd
do.
drive a digger. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Through
That
the
would
front of a
be
travel
great
lodge,
Through the
like
front of
that, like that guy did in Liverpool. Outstanding. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get plenty of time to talk about the Checker Trade Trophy and etc. etc. So lots of questions. Thank you as always for your questions. We love all of you. We just talk a little bit too much and don't get time to read them out. But please keep them coming in. Let's do this roundup as quickly as we can. We played that game yesterday, didn't we, Rich? Oh, Norwich are losing. How much are they going to win by? So Norwich beat Bristol City up the top there. All the stats say, even when they lose or draw, they create loads of chances, have loads of possession. They're just going up, Rich.
Sickening, isn't it? And the two things I'd say on this fixture is, one is suddenly Kenny McLean scores, so Pookie has a day off, and 2 goals for bloody McLean. There's some good goals in this one, by the way, if you want to watch back. I think is it Al Dowda for Bristol City goes off on a run. Doesn't matter. Webster Lee scores. Yeah. The other thing I would say is, if Bristol City lose next week, the Bristol City Johnson Outers will be out in force.
There'll be 4 defeats on the trot, won't it? Yeah. Amy, West Brom 0, Sheffield United 1. I kind of am a bit behind Sheffield United because they're the only ones without parachute payments, and I know they're probably paying Gary Medine and Scott Hogan a fair amount of money, but that's a hell of a win, isn't it, away at West Brom?
I think it's always nice to see that a club that's sort of moved its way up the ranks from, they were down in League One. Maybe there is a little bit of us thinking, could that be us in a few years' time? So it'd be nice to see Sheffield United go up.
Yeah.
And I do remember the year they missed out in the playoffs, and I think was it the year after that they then went down to League One, and it was a bit sad for them. They're a nice club. They're a good club. I will be sad if they go up to not have Bramall Lane to. Mind you, we're not going to have Bramall Lane to visit next year anyway, are we? So I'll make the most of it then in April. But it's and of course it's Ardidzi. It'd be nice for him to be in the Premier League. So
yes, one of their phalanx of a million strikers they have now. Richard, Leeds beat Bolton, but let's talk about Matthias Klitsch pouring water on Joe Williams. What was he doing?
It's good. Fight a week. It's like a whole different spin-off of the league, isn't it? We'll have this. Parky wasn't happy, was he? But it was a pretty crappy goal that Leeds won with as well. But we'll take it because it puts pressure on Norwich and it puts pressure on Bolton.
We're all getting our Leeds shirts ready for this last game of the season.
I'm getting printed. Yeah, I'm sitting in the Coventry stand on the last day of the season. I can't wait. I'm learning the words to marching on together. In terms of bits of news, Bolton takeover announced today, which is good for them, I guess. But yeah, the hope that they might implode. We've heard
that before, though, haven't we?
My target is 23rd, by the way. If we don't finish bottom, that will be a good end of the season for me. So, But yeah, let's have a fight a week on the touchline.
We could. Can you imagine this? If you told me this when Howard Kendall and Don Hutchison were beating us up, I could be supporting Sheffield United on the second last game of the season and Leeds on the last game of the season if there's any chance of them knocking those Canaries off the top there. Oh, am I being a little bit twee? There we go. We'll see what happens. But
who are you supporting on the last day, Amy?
It will depend what the situation is with Norwich, because obviously if Leeds need to win, as far as I'm concerned, Bart can sit on the sidelines and just let them score. It's fine for me.
I just know what
goes to goal difference. Can you imagine?
But we're going to get this all hyped up. This always happens. We're going to get it all hyped up. Right. Leeds need to win and just need Villa to beat Norwich. Norwich will be 3-0 up at half time, won't they?
Yeah.
They'll play an absolute blinder.
They'll completely burst the bubble.
Pookie will have 2 touches and score 4 goals somehow. It is
kind of nice to think, though, that if we are when we are down before we've even got into the end of April, the impact that we could have just by completely fucking up the expected results against Sheffield United and Leeds, it could be so much fun. Or we could just let both of them win so that Norwich slip down into the playoffs, which you can just hope might happen. You really don't think it is going to happen, do you?
Someone asked, I hate to say, Norwich and Sheffield United are better than everyone else. Leeds on their day can attain the highest level of performance in the league, but they're too inconsistent. West Brom, I still keep saying I think their manager needs another couple of years, and they've got some great players. We're talking about Borough. We'll talk about them. They beat QPR. Borough are kind of like they've got cruise control on at 61 miles an hour, and they might overtake if someone has a complete crash further up the motorway. They'll be there. But anyway, let's swing through these. Borough beat QPR 2-0. QPR have lost 7 on the trot and have leads. So Borough staying in there, but still away back. Forest v Derby tomorrow night. Che Adams scores another 2 for Birmingham, but we're starting to get into D-Mob happy mid-table teams. Millwall still not miles away. They had a bit of a horror show first half against Preston, but I just think Millwall are capable of, bunging a couple of set plays in and scoring against anybody with, Cooper and Hutchison and Wallace and Elliott, all the big guys.
Usually good at home as well.
Yeah, it's hard place to go. Hopefully they're good at home next Saturday. Why do I know all of Norwich's fixtures? It's unnerving, isn't it?
It's because it's on the wall behind the camera that we can't see, along with a big map with pieces of string all tied
Championship to it. Wall chart. Oh, FBI something. Well, I'm going to keep going. Stoke 1, Villa 1, underachievers. Who cares? Wednesday 3, Swansea 1. Wednesday playing quite well. Swansea, look out for Swansea and some 4-2s and 3-4s as they go into on the beach mode as well. Brentford 5-1 against Hull. Ben Rama, brilliant hat trick. So now Ben Rama's going to be the next player to go out Brentford for 12 million or whatever ridiculousness. And for the millionth time, Reading 1, Rotherham 1, Amy. Somehow there's still a chance for Ipswich kind of in miracle terms, but Bolton could win 2 games and be out of it. And these teams are so terrible but can't win.
So could we. We could win. We could unexpectedly win 2 games and drag ourselves back into it.
Drag ourselves up to 22nd.
I think the results yesterday were exactly how we needed them to go. And all right, we need to be sorting out our own games before we start looking at what everyone else is doing. But I was reading before we came on, the Reading manager's taken a dig at the Rotherham manager for his direct football, and I was just thinking, well, do you know what? Does it really matter when you're battling against trying to?
I know the laws of the game, and there's no laws against Paul warning, is there?
To quote a philosopher, every point's a prisoner.
Oh, he always gets him mentioned, doesn't he? And all I would say to the Reading manager is, where is Neil Warnock managing at the moment? And yeah, there you go. Extrapolate. We haven't had one of these for a while. Ipswich are 24th with 21 points from 34 games. 0.61 projects an abject 28 points for the rest of the season. The current target, and I quote, at the current pace, which will change, for survival is Reading. They have 30 points from 34, so they are operating at 0.88, projecting 40 at the current pace, thus setting a target of 41 for survival, meaning Ipswich need 20 points from the last 12 games, 1.66. This does not, however, factor that traditionally the bottom sides will outperform the mid-table teams for the last 10 games of the season. So it will be. Follow Chris Rand, ITFC Live. He does the probability stuff, and it doesn't look good.
Was it higher than it was at Blue Monday Live? It was 99.5% probability, wasn't it?
It's
Is
not
it 99.8 now, I think?
Rich,
It's like
it's not good. As Amy was saying, it needs to be literally a 5-game period, 3 wins, 1 draw, and 10 points over 5 games or something insane. Factoring in Sheffield United away and Leeds at home are the last 2 games of the season, and they will likely be in the top 3. Richard, you wanted to just get on your soapbox about your second team, Coventry. Do you want to just quickly do that?
Yeah, only a minute, and I tweeted about this earlier. I think it's just a bit of awareness and to shed a bit of light on the plights of teams that are in League One, and obviously Coventry very nearby to me and a team that I go and watch. 6 home games away from being evicted from the Ricoh Arena and potentially expelled from the Football League by because they can't find a ground in Coventry, which is a really sad state of affairs. The
FA
ownership
Cup
there,
winners in
FA
87.
Cup winners, Checker Trade Trophy winners a couple of years ago. But it's more the fact that the ownership are at loggerheads with the council and WASPs who own the ground and taking people to court. It's just a really sorry state of affairs, and kind of the phrase that I always think in those situations is, "There, but for the grace of God, go I," because we've had our issues with Marcus Evans and various intervals and points, and because of the lack of communication, the situation is not too dissimilar from ours. It's the worst case scenario, obviously, if things were to spiral out of control. But you've seen it with the Oystons at Blackpool. It's just desperate, and I more sympathy to the Coventry fans, and just to kind of shed a bit of light on that. And I would suggest people, if they're interested, follow the Sky Blue Trust at Sky Blue Trust, or at the Sky Blue Trust, on Twitter. But just really sad, and hopefully, if people can provide some support, a bit of pressure on the EFL, who have been really passive in this situation and just allowed this to play out. I think any support would be appreciated.
Well said, well said. Let's move on to Two Little Ducks. So from something very serious to something very stupid, everybody's favourite part of the show. So the rules are Rich and Amy are going to attempt to name as many of the 22 starters of a game that I pick out from the annals of Ipswich Town history. They each get one golden goose, or whatever the hell we call it. So they get one gimme, and I will always help out. Used substitutes, if you pick a used substitute, you get away with that as well. And what's a good total? Anything over
double figures.
Oh, anything over 3, I was going to say that.
What's the game?
What's the game? The game, Rich, is 1 year ago today. Mick McCarthy pulled out his last go. Have you prepared for it?
I knew you were going to go that
Preston.
one.
Oh,
I haven't
God.
written it down. That would be cheating, but I was there.
Oh, okay.
So
Mick McCarthy pulled out
I might actually be able to do it on.
his last great 1-0 away win as Ipswich manager at Preston North End. We just had the Norwich heartache. So I gave you loads of clues as well. It's all set up. A muggy Neil Warnock win at Cardiff. And then the last time we also won 2 games in a row, because we're going to beat Sheffield United later on that week. So there you go. Amy was there. Richard undoubtedly prepared for Reading 0 Ipswich 4. Yeah?
I prepared for the CV game.
Oh, you prepared for the
honest.
CV game? It's not
We're reading
Gabriel
Wikipedia the whole day.
Don't worry. Right, do you want to go first, Amy?
Okay. Bart.
Yes, one. Richard?
I'll go for an obvious one because I'm going to struggle with this one. Mustafa Carriel for 45 minutes.
We were discussing yesterday Mustafa Lionel Messi Carriel in that game. Played rather well, didn't he? Flattered to deceive. 2, Amy?
Chambers.
Yep. Rich, you're pulling a very pained face there.
Amy.
Yeah, this is the way to play this game. Yeah, there you go.
Amy, do you remember Martin Waghorn playing? Yeah, he did. Yep, good.
Yep, Martin Waghorn.
Can I just say that's only 2 mentions of Marty Waghorn in this podcast? I think that must be a record.
I mentioned him earlier with that penalty, didn't I?
Yeah, it's only the second one.
Okay.
I'm very impressed.
Waghorn.
I thought I was going.
There you go. Waghorn. We got 4. Have we got
Who
4?
else was up front with him?
You might
I got all
seen him play
excited. I thought I'd gone ahead now. Who was? Oh, of course, Mr. Garner.
Joe Garner, 5.
It's his own club. Amy, did Ben Pearson play for Preston? Yeah,
don't ask me opposition.
Ben Pearson, good.
I'm letting you go Ipswich. I'm going to see how many Preston players I can.
Oh no, because now I've put myself in it, haven't I?
Well, did someone get sent off yesterday who played in the match? Ben?
Yeah, I would have said Knudsen was playing. He has to have been.
Yeah, Knudsen, 7, good.
Who else would have been at the back?
Scouse surely would have played
8,
as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Grant Ward?
Maybe.
No, Grant Ward.
Well,
I'm going to take that one off you. Mikey was well harsh when he hosted this, wasn't he? Like, if you even looked at the wrong answer, you're like, no, you're out.
Game over.
Game over. All done.
Taking my ball.
One of the players got mentioned in the questions earlier. No longer plays for us.
Oh, man.
So Callum Connolly has just popped in my head.
Callum Connolly, very good, was in there.
Is there another Callum in the Preston team?
Yes.
Robinson, is it?
Callum Robinson, good, yes.
Yeah.
Incredibly, in this game, we were so on top that Alex Neil made a double sub on 38 minutes to cope with Mustafa Carayal. Can you imagine that? Ridiculous. You have 10.
Barkhuizen.
Barkhausen, yeah, 11.
Was
Brown.
Carter Vickers playing?
Carter Vickers, 12. Brown, 13. This is very strong. You
double.
have one more Ipswich player who scored a 100th minute goal a couple of weeks ago.
Why do I not know this?
Rotherham for Sheffield Wednesday.
I don't know what. Like,
Come on. Dominic
why don't I
Iorfa.
know this? Dominic Iorfa, really?
Dominic Iorfa. One more Ipswich player. You mentioned him in the Norwich game, Richard.
I hate this game
my
so
clues
much.
don't help, do they?
Next season, can we come up with a different
We're
game?
going to come up with a
please?
different game. That's already been decided. Don't worry.
Help.
Dave's like, I'm not coming back on the pod next year unless you change the game. So we've got to change the game. He hates this game.
I'm so glad I'm not alone.
I don't-
My
I
mate
can't
Martin
remember.
was teasing me the whole way through the second half yesterday. You got to do two little ducks.
Yeah, I
Right,
think
there
you've
is an Ipswich
performed.
player missing. Is he a midfielder?
He's a left-footed defender.
Okay, yeah, because we haven't done. We've said
He's really good.
clearly. He's still at the club.
Who knows?
No, he plays for Bristol City.
Oh, Webster.
Oh,
Right, I'm giving you way too many clues. You've got the
Yeah.
whole Ipswich team. So it was Bialkowski, Iorfa, Knudsen, Chambers, Webster, Carter, Vickers. How many defenders is there?
It was a
This must be a
5-3-2.
no,
wasn't it?
no, he played like 3-4-3. He did a Nuno Santo for this one, didn't he? He played two wide players as well. I'm getting so excited. Tactics: Connolly, Carter, Vickers, Skews, Carroll, Waghorn, Garner. The Preston team for you Championship hipsters: Rudd, Cunningham, Woods, Davis, Huntington, Pearson, Brown, Malt, Barkhausen, Robinson, Bowden. Good job, though. Well done. Moving on, I'm sure you'll go forensically into this, Richard, on Thursday or whenever the preview show comes out. Reading next week. We don't do hashtag not losable. We don't do hashtag winnable. We don't do 6-pointers. But tell me about this game, Richard.
I'm trying to find another phrase that I could lob in there. Do you know what? I think they will be more nervous than we are about this one. And I think if we go for it like we did yesterday, I think it might be a good game, or Reading might try and shut it down. And I think we should go for it. Do you know what? We have literally nothing to lose. We are the bottom team who's chasing down teams above us. Let's go for it. The issue, I guess, is injuries and stuff out of yesterday. In your rule book, did it tell you how many games Knudsen in the rule book? Is it 3 games?
I didn't check.
Knudsen.
It'd be at least 2 for Australia.
2 or 3. So
he's not.
Hopefully
around.
Collins will be fit. That'd be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, go for it. Why not go for it? Let's score 3.
Amy, traditionally this season these games have ended in draws, and Nelson Oliveira, discuss.
I just don't think you can rely on games like this going either way, because everybody's going to be put in there. Yesterday they were, when Wigan were in the penalty area, I think all of our players ended up on the floor because they were just jumping everywhere in front of the ball, just trying to stop it. And I suspect it'll be a very scrappy game, exactly the same. What is interesting is both teams are going into it having been 1-0 up at half-time, I think Reading were as well, and lost the game late on. Rotherham didn't score until 80 minutes, I think I saw. So I think that's either going to be gutted that they dropped 2 points and feeling a bit down from that, or right, come on, we need to get something out of this. But I would imagine that Wigan were expecting to get something out of yesterday in the same way that Reading will be on Saturday, and we are going to go out there and prove them wrong.
I think the surge, well, I say surge, the relative surge of the bottom teams has. If you look, they've and we've gone 3 unbeaten, and we're on the worst points for the last 6 games of all the bottom. I mean, Reading have got 7 points in the last 6 games, and there's a few little wins popped up, and there's 3, 4 points, 5 points. Whereas we were looking back earlier in the season, and it was dismal. You know, everyone was losing every week and 2 points every 6 games or something. I still have Reading, Rich, as the most likely to get out of this.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. The manager there seems to have figured them out as well. Some good loan signings, including Oliveira. But yeah, I think it has. Rotherham, I think, have probably regressed to the norm now after maybe a good start. But they'll be super nervous, won't they, Reading? Because this is a game that they will see that they have to win. So that pressure, I think, might tell. But yeah, I think Reading are probably the best of the 4 down there.
Call me a cynic. I've just got a horrible 1-1 draw that helps neither team written all over this, but I really, really hope I am wrong. Amy, give us a little plug for your Twitter and any writings stuff you're doing at the moment.
Track to Girl Amy 8. If I can be bothered tonight, I'm going to put together a little bit of a video from yesterday, but in rarity for me, didn't get there till quite late, so there isn't much of my usual away day videos that I like to put out. But there is the next issue of the Kings of Anglia, which I am in again. It's on pre-order at the moment. I think it's expected out any day. To be honest with you, I don't get given the dates when it comes out. I just get a message from my friends saying it's always dropped on my. It's about why we bother supporting Ipswich when they're so terrible. There's a really nice piece in there of where I asked that question online, so everybody talking about why they still go, why we still support Ipswich, and in a way it is a nice bit of. It's a bit uplifting. The goal of it was to try and be a bit uplifting and remind everybody why we love our club so much. So hopefully, who knows how long it will last, but. Hopefully it will make a few people smile and make them happy. And there is a comparison with our current plight and Brexit, which made Mike Bacon, the editor, laugh. So I'm waiting for a few comments on that one, hopefully.
Yeah, he get his red pen out on that one, won't he? Richard, plug your excellent podcast and your top 10 video that we saw drop this past Thursday, I think.
So at Ipswich on the Twitter, and Harry and I were back as usual Thursday night for Friday morning for the preview show, chatting Reading and any other stuff that we fancy having a natter about. On the conversely to Amy's positive blog or article is a video of the 10 in my time watching Ipswich Town, the 10 moments where marginal things have gone against us, and it might be a bit of a run of a few top 10 videos that I might start doing before the end of the season to use up some of this footage that I've got loads of. So yeah, you can find that on YouTube, find out on my Twitter as well and on our channel, and any views would be gratefully received. Any comments and also suggestions and maybe future top 10s also very welcome.
Wonderful stuff. I know anybody who came has been thanked profusely already, but thank you again to the people who came to the live show last week. That was absolutely brilliant for us, opened all our eyes up to what we might be able to do next season and moving forward, and things we can do for this little sort of podcast community. So you may have seen a poll out. We do have plans to repeat the same thing, possibly more than once next season, but those plans will probably be made one day before the season starts in a very rushed fashion at 11:59 at night or something. But no, we do plan to keep that going. Whoever asked about the podcast next season, do not worry. There'll be even more of it, probably, not less. But so big thank you to everyone who came to the live show. Obviously, you probably do already, but follow us on Twitter at Blue Monday ITC. Follow me at Benjamin Bloom. Amy, say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me again.
You're very welcome. Richard, say something equally as polite as Amy just did.
Screw you guys. No. Have a good week, everyone, and I'll see you for Reading.
See you later.
Even better back to Stewart. Oh, he turns the defender sweetly. Round the goalkeeper and scores a magnificent goal at the top end.